Hello, everyone, and welcome. I should say good morning. We're used to doing this in the afternoon, but good morning from NASA Wallops Flight Facility, where I'm located in Wallops Island, Virginia, in the United States. And this is the Trees Around the Globe Student Research Campaign, webinar number 7. This is called Our Connection to the Land, Observing Trees and Forests Using Citizen Science for Language Revitalization. That's a mouthful, but our speaker, Oscar Garza, can tell you exactly what that means. And it has something to do with Native Americans in the United States. So he's going to talk about that in a little bit. But I want to give you, as you know, I have lots of things that we discuss ahead of time. And I always show this why trees diagram, because today is going to be a great presentation. It's going to be something that you might not have heard before or thought about very often. So why trees? We talk to tree research experts, and this doesn't mean just researchers and scientists. It also means foresters, educators, even students who become experts by taking measurements. Then we have satellite and instrument data and maps. I will tell you the ISAT-2 data is not out to the public yet, and I apologize for that. It's that's out of my hands. That's a NASA, higher than my pay grade thing. So hopefully it'll be out in the next couple weeks, probably April, beginning of April timeframe. But don't hold me to that, even though this is being recorded. But once we get that data out there, and find a way that we can access it for you guys to compare to the tree height measurements you've been taking as part of the campaign, we'll let you know, and we'll hold a special session, special webinar on that to show you how to do that. And then the student data is, in my opinion, is one of the most important things. We have the globe measurements. So the measurements as part of the campaign, from tree height to land cover to greenings, also, all the baseline measurements when you talk about understanding what your local environment is doing by just looking at the trees. You also want to know what's happening in that environment, what the air temperature is, what the surface temperature, what the soil moisture may be. So all these things. But then we also have the cultural aspect. You're going to learn a lot about that today with Oscar's presentation through the cultural workings of how, different cultures look at trees and look at forests, in their cultures. And then collaboration. Collaboration is a big thing. Collaboration happens between students, happens between schools. It happens for when the students want to come together, with different globe schools to create research projects that are local to schools. There's collaboration among students. And then also, our goal is to get schools around the world, as part of this campaign, working together to do this. And we have some already that have been talking to each other, so that's great. And then we have that international virtual student symposia every year through the GLOBE program, where students submit their research projects. And we put all that together. That's the Trees campaign. So I bring this up here. This is the website. All of you know where this website is and where to find it on, where the page is for the campaign on the GLOBE website. And then also a couple guidelines for choosing trees to measure. Trees measured should be at least 5 meters, 16.4 foot tall. Trees measured should be isolated trees, or the tallest trees in a large grouping of areas. And that's it's easier to look at those trees than with that satellite data to try to pick out in the satellite data where the trees are that you were measuring. So then we also have some tree height tutorial slides. This is through the biometry e-training, and I pulled out some of the tree height ones, so you don't have to go through every single one through the biometry if you just want to look at the tree height. And if you can find this on this link there, that will take you directly to them. So for the campaign, we have these guiding investigative questions, and you might remember these from the ENSO student research campaign. But these are ones that are focusing on trees, of course, for the campaign. Where are trees growing and why are they there? And these are questions that you want to explore when your students are taking measurements. You can explore these. These can be part of a research project. This could be your research question. Why are trees growing and why are they there? What can measuring tree height tell us about our local ecosystem? What is the relationship between tree height and land cover? and what are the tools for measuring trees and the errors between them. And that's a pretty cool one. Peter Nelson, discussed that one with me. And, there's lots of ways that people have measured the tree heights over time, and they do now. But there's definitely some errors, in measuring these. It's user error, tool error. But yeah, this is a way that you can identify, the different errors between different measuring tools if you so desire. And here I mentioned earlier the Globe International Virtual Science Symposium. Students' reports are now being accepted. Projects are due by April 10th of 2019. You can grab it on this bit.ly URL. I didn't put the long one on there because it's super long. If your students are going to submit a research project IVSS 2019, please reference the Trees Around the Globe campaign in that project. That would be great, because that'd be great affiliation, and they know that you've been part of this campaign. So top February measurements for tree height, greenings, and land cover. I want to give props to those who have submitted these. And you see there's 4 from tree height, 3 from Croatia, 1 from the United States. Mr. Bauman is online right now, so awesome job. And greenings, green up, green down. We have Saudi Arabia, Ukraine, Croatia, Lithuania. And land cover, we have the United States, Croatia, and the Taiwan partnership. So you'll see these measurements came in from all over the world. We didn't have as many tree height measurements this month, and that was probably because this month wasn't a month for the intensive observation period, the IOP. So hopefully in the future we'll have some more. Now, intensive observation periods, we just had the one in January for tree height, but in April, next month, we are going to have one for land cover. So just like the tree height measurements, where you were to take, measurements at least 3 times per week for 1 month for the tree height protocol, and then, one of the other protocols, if you want to do surface temperature, air temperature, precipitation, you have to do at least one other one as part of this intensive observation period. So for April, you want to take at least 3 land cover measurements. Of course, they don't have to be in the same spot. Land cover measurements can change, it's going to change no matter where you go. It's your environment, what you're looking at. So that's going to start next month. It'll start April 1st and run through April 30th. And we will have virtual badges for the winner and all the participants to go on the Globe website under your profile. And all those who participated last month, in January, all of those are up on their pages, so you can check them out and see what the badges look like. And if you want to earn one for the land cover IOP for the campaign, participate. That'd be great. So yeah, so Trees Around the Globe Student Research Campaign Intensive Observation Period for April 2019. Focus is land cover. And this is just showing you one of the digital badges for the virtual badges for the IOP for tree height measurements. Just want to bring this up again and say congratulations and thank you to all the people who participated. And then also the winner, once again, was Marina Sambolik out of Croatia, and her students submitted 325 tree height measurements in just the month of January as part of the IOP. So very awesome job, and I think the digital badges came out really well, and they're super popular on the Globe website. So you can earn yours for land cover. And then later on in the summertime in the Northern Hemisphere, when you're in the Southern Hemisphere, you can, earn another one for the tree height as well. So we'll have 2 tree heights during the campaign, this for the first phase, and then 2 for land cover. Now, this is super cool because next week we'll be releasing the Globe Trees protocol on the NASA Globe Observer app. We're hoping to do this on next Tuesday, actually a week from now, on the 26th. So this will most likely be released on the 26th, and this will allow you to take tree height measurements and tree circumference measurements using your phone. Now, tree height measurements is done all internally on your phone. If you want to do the optional tree circumference, you will need a tape measure, and that's it. So basically all you need to do, this full protocol on NASA Go, is your mobile phone, mobile device, and a tape measure. If you want to do just a tree height, that's fine. All you need is your phone. So It's really cool. The phone calculates it for you. You're going to just be moving your phone up and down to the base of the tree and the height of the tree. And then there's some really cool stuff that is part of it. And it's super easy to do, super simple. We've been designing it and beta testing it out for several months now. So it's very cool. And we're super excited to announce this, for next week. And then see how simple this tree height measurement actually can be. And then while you're doing the, tree height, we don't want you to forget about land cover, because that's super important, that they go hand in hand very well. So, we have something at the end. Once you take a measurement in the trees app, trees protocol is part of the app, you will, be asked, do you want to take, a land cover measurement? And please do so, because that's a super simple one to do as well. So I hope you're participating in that. All right. Here's one. There will be no April 2019 webinars. We're going to focus on the IOP, but there will be 2 webinars in May, and they will be back-to-back weeks. It will be May 7th and May 14th. And you can check on the website for the information regarding what those webinars will be. I'm going to give you a quick teaser here. The first one, May 7th, this won't give you the whole description of. This is called Tree Height, Wetlands, and the Invasive Task Force, live from New York. And then Marcus, who is online right now, students will be presenting on Tuesday, May 4th at 12 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. And what greens up must green down, greenings live from Switzerland. So super excited to hear about that. They've been doing some great stuff with the phenology campaigns. And PhenoCam, which you'll learn about as part of the presentation. So super excited about that as well. So today I'm going to stop talking, and I'm going to turn it over to Oscar, and he's going to be talking to you about our connection to the land, observing trees and forests using citizen science for language revitalization. And I'm going to finish up here. I'm going to stop my share, and I will turn it over to Oscar.
Good morning, everybody. Has quest kukulmutlu is quest. Chensuhal Kamil Senior Yos Puson. Good morning. My name is Oscar Garza. I'm a volunteer at Senior Yos Puson, also at Leon Valley. I volunteer wherever I can. And right now with me is Seulio, one student from Senior Yos. Seulio.
Kalispel Language. Everybody, my name is Whitetail Bell. I live in the Kalispel land, and I go to the Junior Immersion School.
Well, now, how can I share my screen? This is my first time, sorry.
Yeah, if you go to the bottom, the little share, there's a little thing at the bottom underneath all the things that says share. It's a little green square with an arrow.
Okay, perfect. Okay, here we go. Okay. Good morning. We're going to be talking about our connection to the land in the Kalispel Salish. This is something that happened to us like 3 years ago. And a little bit about myself, I was in Salish Kootenai College studying forestry for a little bit under 2 years. It was a remote program here with the Kalispel and in Washington State. The main campus is in Montana. And I have the gift of studying forestry to a different perspective. Let me see one real quick here. So education, in this case, we're talking about the Article 14, the indigenous people have the right to establish and control their educational systems and institutions providing education in their own languages in a manner appropriate to the cultural methods of teaching and learning. It's very important here to say that teaching in a cultural appropriate manner, cultural responsible manner, because of the fact it is not only what you teach, but also how you teach it, the scope of that. And many cultures have not had the time to voice out their perspective that. And there's something very important, the traditional ecological knowledge. All that knowledge is there from many oral traditions. They didn't have the chance to be known. And the same way we're right now collecting data across the world to give us an opportunity to see a bigger picture. The same way we can use that model to gather that information and try to make as much as possible of that knowledge of our elders around the world. The indigenous language, they're different. They are around the world. We have 7,000 right now. 2,000, or a little bit 2,000 to 2,900 languages are in danger. Each language carry a perspective of the of life, how they see the world, because the cosmovision. And by themselves, they carry knowledge and wisdom. They tell you what to do, or they guide you. They are very, some of them are very extremely descriptive languages. And I found this beautiful. In this case, I have the gift of being included in the Kalispel Language Revitalization Program as a community member. And I'm a proud student. I think I'm forever going to be a student of these languages. Now here, around the world, there's many indigenous cultures, and the language borders also, they have to do with landscape borders. The landscape shape us and the language shape us. And many of those cultures have been displaced or moved, and we don't have that much knowledge of information about it. So we're trying to save as much as possible in this quest. Here's how many the indigenous territories. As you can see, it's not only one in the United States, it's a globe. And the same way as ecosystems, they blend together. They have different borders, and they also with languages and culture. This is right now, and we're talking about, in this case, the Salish corridor, which they share a common language. Several tribes share the Salish, different dialects. They go from Montana all the way to British Columbia. And right here, we're going to be talking about specifically the Kalispel. The Kalispel is this tiny little piece right here, and the language we're going to speak in is Kalispel, the Kalispel language. It is similar to other languages in the region. This is the Kalispel original territory. That was 1903. And you can see how there's a big difference between this one and the past one. Close to 1,000 of what it was originally after the Sandpoint Agreement that was never ratified. Now, with these land laws, we also have the connection with plants, with food, animals, was also part of the culture, the diet, and the language. So when don't have access to these, it's going to be more difficult for us to recover the whole fabric. We're right now trying to get some pieces of the thread to get the bigger picture, because with the connection with the land, the connection with the trees, the connection with the animals is also a tradition. How you teach it, how you pass it on. When you don't have these elements available, it's going to be very difficult to pass on that information. Now, not all the dominant languages, we're going to have a hard time to get that knowledge if we don't bridge that gap. Many of those plants, many of those elements might not be for one culture important, but for other can represent even their mere identity. Where did you get your name from? We've been doing this for thousands of years. This is how we're connected. Here's a time diagram from close to 10,000 years in the area to what we call the first contact with Lewis and Clark in the 1800s. So we compress those 9,000 years. Lewis and Clark arrived at 1128, half an hour before midnight. So before that, all those names on the land, all these traditions have been here. But now we are in an extinction level event, we can say that. So we have to use all our tools, all our hearts in this effort to bring as much as we can of that identity. This is not only important for local, but also for global level. That's our inheritance as a whole humankind. We try to preserve, stop the loss, and with the hope of the future, learn more about ourselves. The more we explore about the outside, we also explore more about ourselves. And that's also who we are as a whole globe. And I had to mention here that is have the opportunity to go with the students to some camping sites when the anthropologists, they show us some carbon dated from camas and from other camping sites 6,500 years ago. And having that experience with kids, with the students, and naming that you are in the same area 6,500 years ago, and rename it, it's something that you cannot describe. It's very thankful for being share that. I'm not going to be talking about the cultural aspect in depth. There has very intricate, and it's up to that is the right of the culture to tell the story in their ways. I'm just sharing this. How can we be a tool to participate to that? That is up to the cultural communities to determine, the same way they have the rights to self-determination. We're going to be talking about in the Kalispel studio, the Kalispel land. It is right next to the Pendorville River. It's a river that runs from the south to the north. It's a very culturally important river. And the characteristics of the Kalispel tribe is the kiye. The kiye is the what you call canoe. This is a sturgeon nose canoe, and it's has a very particular design. It is made of the bark of the white pine. The ribs are the cedar, and some of the stine is made of the roots from a local pine. So if we lost that connection, that we would not be able to pass this craftsmanship, but most importantly, the identity. The name is Suhulapa Mitilencuet in Tuetku. That means the paddlers. That's how you are known around by yourself and by other tribes. So I want you to think for a second that you go to sleep with your name. You are proud and happy of your name, your identity. It builds up even into your dreams. That's who you are. You wake up and that's what you do. Your identity. But not be able to do that, it changed something dramatically. The same way, as a whole ecosystem, as a food web, we understand that interwoven, the interconnection between organisms. There's no isolated organism. Everything works together. Everything is concatenated. In this case, the suhueli, the camasia, it grows in the pairs. So these camas also gives us a name, the camas people, and it's part of our food. So some of those sites, so 6,500 years old, have some residues of this. And naming again, the process of that, for many, just might be a plant, but it is important. It carries a nutritional value, it carries a cultural value, it carries a spiritual value, and that has to be preserved. Here, boundaries. We are connected to the land. In this case, this is a map of the languages. In the far right, you can see Kalispel and how the Salish extends from the north to the south, and it has this permeating, these porous borders. When the cultural interchange, not only for foods, the trading and the connection is also between the cultures. And this has to do also with the landscape. When one landscape starts changing, the language starts changing, and the same way the names. Some tribes derive their name from the salmon, and that when you build a dam, that you're no longer able to have that sample, and the repercussions and the tear of this fabric are enormous. You might not have economical value for you, but in the whole aspect, you are cutting those flows of culture and many other things. Just think about it as a holobiont and hologenome, like vertical and horizontal genetic paths. That information is no longer making its way. And on that note, I want to talk about like how can we recover the language? Okay, what can we do? How can we be a tool for that? Treating language also, we're going to treat it as vectors. We're going to treat it, every one of us can be a carrier or a certain amount of information. Let's think about the original language. It's a whole encyclopedia. Now we have pieces, and our elders are the few last who have those. And we have the gift right now of talking with someone that his first language was not English. His dreams, the way he feels, the way they connected, the way they were hungry, it was not done through an English perspective on our language. It was done that, and that's probably might be the last generation. So, in that way, we're trying to recover the whole library as much as we can by replicating those pages. We're going to become carriers in a very dynamic way. We're going to copy on natural models instead of just vertical models. Here, citizen science. What can I do? I don't know much of language. 2-3 years ago, we started with this recruiting for the Kalispel language. Community members. How can we help? And what can we bring to the table? Okay, we are against time, we have little resources, but we are a tight community. And the reasons citizen science is, I find this very model very efficient, is because mostly is conducted by volunteers, and it's not done on a 7 to 5 business hours. It's more dynamic, it moves around. So what are we doing is, how can we, instead of a traditional classroom, we adhere to the indigenous pedagogy, which is different than the Western, and we start learning together, because I'm discovering the world. I'm a baby in this, but can I use citizen science to go out there and rename things? Can I grab the tools of the protocols, depure them, and teach and learn in a cultural and congruent manner, trying to establish that reconnection without the intervention of English? Can we take students out there? And probably it is not my place to talk about the culture, but can I make this connection, this more fluent speaker, or get those a little bit more foundations in the language? So when the student go back to the elder, have a more meaningful connection the same way it used to be. So you have the entry level going back to the expert, and have that connection. It is not my place to take traditional ecological knowledge, but it only to facilitate the students, the little ones, to go with the elders and have that reconnection. That probably will be the last one. And with the hope that future generation, the language and that knowledge heals little by little. In this case, if we have a common way, like a classroom, we have the expert, and then we go to intermediate, and then to entry. But we don't have a hands-on, and we have to wait for the knowledge of the expert to trickle down all the way to the entry, and there's no practicity. In this case, volunteering and citizen science allow me to be extremely more dynamic. We have the elder expert here with traditional ecological knowledge, or the whole knowledge, and it has the encyclopedia A, B to C. So that their time is very precious. So what do? In this case, community members, they get involved at their parts with like a citizen science in the language, and then go to other community members. And this interaction, this resonance starts to happening. Now, what is important? Because we're reclaiming not only the language, but the language needs territory. We have to build safe spaces for people so that they can talk. Otherwise, it will inhibit the growth. A couple of words, a couple of phrases, that makes a safe space for students to go out there and share as a community, and that interaction start building up as a community. You are reclaiming territory, but the first territory you are reclaiming is the linguistic one, the mind, the heart. That's the one you're reclaiming. And after that, as a community, start building up. So it doesn't stay anymore in the classroom. Go out. You go out, and 24/7 you can be exploring, and you can be learning. That will help that always the tradition, the knowledge is passed among the community. Everybody has knowledge, but nobody has knowledge at the same time. And a healthy language is spoken at all levels on daily life. It's a tool. You have to use it as a tool. Now, citizen science and language, what enable me? Open spaces, just break the walls of the classroom, go out there, and you have more. You also have this connection between elders and students, or teachers or students. When you can also teach leadership, you can also teach the particularities of a culture in a non-traditional way, not by the book. And everybody can contribute. The same way citizen science and crowdsourcing is very powerful is because everybody get their hands on deck, and they can contribute at all levels. Doesn't matter if it's a couple of words, but you're making it all together a bigger, more resonant model. It supports different teaching methods, because not only what you teach, but how you teach it. It's not only the way that here's a test, just memorize it, and that the practicity. How did the ancestors pass that knowledge? Your hands-on. That part of also carries wisdom, and that citizen science work protocols allow me to be more efficient when it comes down to language revitalization. I'm just trying to facilitate that bridge to happen. and so on. The volunteers are extremely powerful. We're not constrained by budget or leadership decisions. You just simply go and do it. Just take charge of it and start doing it at your pace and inspire the community. You do it on a daily basis as a way of life. Low budget. In this case, we can use many things, many tools out there, and we can use high technology at very low budget. In this case, I can talk about the Glow protocol with the green up, green down. It gives me a fantastic tool to learn learn the colors in the language, how descriptive they are, the buds, how they open, the phenology, which education is tied to the seasons. The months are counted by the phenological changes, and we're teaching that in a natural way. Subsequently, we're going to teach the dominant knowledge, but in the meanwhile, the connection is happening when the season is changing. Are the geese here? Like March is the month of the geese. The next month will be April. That's the month of a yellow flower, and so on and so on. So that phenology, the students get aware about looking for their environment and their interconnectors. The seasons define us. We can use, in this case, for the color, allows me to use technology, like we use donated phones, simple things, color theory. And there's a lot of room for language and science to teach about color theory, the difference between color perception, how does a sensor perceive the light, electromagnetic spectrum. I can jump and make a very inexpensive spectrometer with a CD and a black cardboard, and we're talking about just line and base knowledge, but pretty much we're stepping out into teaching quantics with a very simple vocabulary. You can teach very complex things with simple vocabulary, but the main thing is the thought process is happening in a language. Now the cultural aspect, the way cultures in the world, that's going to be up to the elders and to teachers with more advanced knowledge in the culture. But in the meanwhile, your common point is science, is the cosmos, things that cannot be changed, the constants out there. Just start naming them and getting the concept across. That makes your model resilient because you're not tied to budget. You can use simple things around you to get complex things. In this case, when I went to SKC, the tribal university, I was thinking about how can I bring elements from a tribal university, from forestry, into the classroom in Salish at early age, at age of 4 or 5. And we find ourselves, there's no store where you can go buy Salish educational toys, So we start making our own. We start 3D printing. We start creating around us. We were building this plane as we fly, and migrate those classes from tribal university to an immersion school, elementary school, and vice versa. And I'm bringing the language back to the college. So this resonance, this feedback, going back and forth from college to elementary school, is what down the road what we want. We want a full university in a whole language because it's a different perspective, and it's going to take time, but it has to start somewhere, and it has to start somehow. The try like you fight mindset. You try to replicate as the most realistic way, the scenarios. That's why you're providing to the students. The city science is an amazing tool. They're already contributing to the global community, and they're already contributing in many ways, on cultural ways, scientific ways. The protocols are concise and enables me rapid language acquisition. In this case, in the case of green up, green down, there's several words in the language to describe if the body is open, it's closed, and actually it's more extensive than using English and by itself. When the students see the language, it is literally telling you what are you seeing, and change of the leaves. The thought process and reconnection in the regional language, that's where we're aiming. That language, that the way of thinking, the way of that's our target. And how we want to tie it with citizen science as a global scope. And we we have an urgency to collect data from elders, traditional ecological knowledge, and also landscape knowledge. As a whole scientific community, like kids, we do just the mere experiment. One time we asked the students, like, how does a scientist look like in the language, no? And do you have the same response over and over, no? The same stereotypes. But we just put a mirror. That's all. And the kids were fascinated. Like, that's how a scientist look like you. And that was very powerful. And kids are our colleagues. We are students and we were teachers on this one. The same way, we create more dynamic spaces. We were create more safe spaces. And the same way, right now, Brian and all Globe are giving us the opportunity to resonate, to tell our story. To even though we're small, we're eager to contribute and we're eager to tell our story, and hopefully can inspire others around the globe, because there's 7,000 languages and 2,900 of them, and there's many other cultures struggling just to be who they are. And if we don't do that, we all lose on this one. We have to remain that awareness, keep that awareness, and just. And I'm gonna, let's say, Julio, look, this is very inspiring. That's one of our first inspirational photos 3 years ago.
Ma'am.
And I wanted to leave you with the first word I learned like 3 years ago. It is lemon, she's thank you. That was the first step, the first leap, that you don't have to be a scientist, you don't have to be an elder. Just reach out, and the will to communicate. That's the most important thing. When there's no will to communicate, to have these interconnections, there will be no communication at all. Doesn't matter if you have several thousands or millions of languages. That will to keep us interconnected. That as a whole ecosystem, a local level to a global level, it works all together. I want to give thank yous to our elders, Johnny R. Lee, Francis Colua, Stan Bluff, Terry Andrews, Kalispel Language Survival School, Jesse Sador, who gave us the opportunity to volunteer and participate in this beautiful program, Todd Ellenberg, supporter, Salish Kootenai, Chris Parkin, for everything done for the language and the inspiration of different models. The Salish Language House, Michelle Johnson, also Kennedy Rourke, for having the faith of supporting us. Daniel Escalisi for the whole inspiration, NASA Biology, amazing project with the Navajo Nation, Dine, Ali Garneros from the AIM Center, and Isabel Carrera for the Northeast Space Science Pipeline, for all the support for that, to enable us and empower to make our youth happy. That's ultimately what we want. We want a happy youth with happy hearts, that they see themselves unique and strong. And that's all I have for right now. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Yep,
Okay.
Thank you, Oscar.
Sorry, 1 second. I would like to, can I share one video of the students?
Yeah, sure.
Can you see the video right now or no?
No.
Okay, give me 1 second.
Just stop sharing this one and then reshare the video.
Okay. So she wanted to make a video, because ultimately what we want is, like, we want speakers, we want someone who uses the tools of what they're given. Let me share.
We can't hear the video, Oscar.
Okay, 1 second. Give me 1 second.
Yep.
1 second, please.
Nope, still can't hear it.
No? No? Okay. No. Okay, 1 second. Trying to figure out. Nope. Video, no? One second. Can you hear it?
No.
Okay. Okay. Do you mind if I post those videos later on in the forum? I don't know what's.
Yep, that's fine. Or you can send it to me and we can add it to where we have the webinar recording listed.
Okay.
That'd be fine. Yep.
Okay. Well, Sauli, you want to say something? You want to say something, Sauli?
All right. Well, thank you, Oscar. Does anybody have any questions? Yeah, this is, Valerie said it well here in her comments. She said, yes, we need to reestablish a deep connection to the land, which is greatly missing. And you saw that with Oscar's presentation today. Looking at trees and looking at green up, green down, all of that is not just scientific. It's a culture. There's a cultural aspect to these measurements that not just the measurements, I should say, but understanding what the land means and what trees mean isn't just scientific or, part of nature. It's part of cultures in the sense that it defines a lot of where cultures come from, where they are and where they're going. As you can see, as Oscar was mentioning in there, they're taking measurements, but they're also understanding their culture and keeping their culture moving in the right direction. So, yeah, and I love that quote. I think I said it here earlier. The one quote that I liked, which was, "A healthy language is spoken at all levels." I thought that was an absolutely amazing quote, and it's so true. So, there's a couple questions in here. Marcus Schuster said, "What do trees mean to you and your culture? What is the value of a tree for you?" And you said that you have different expressions for buds, for the growth and opening of buds and leaves. Can you explain it? Can you explain it in English? You mentioned.
Okay. The cultural connection in this case, we're talking about the Kiyalku. That is by itself means Kiye means boat and Alku means wood. So it's telling you that tree is gonna make your Kiye. The importance of the several trees, you gotta keep in mind the particularities of the culture is they're very. Some of them, how can I explain this? When you start seeing things as a whole, the things are having more value where they fall. So that connection becomes more, and it becomes very private. Depends on, let's say, the tree will provide the foundations for other things around, which will all depend on that. And that's when things for you might become not monetary, but as spiritual connection. Different trees, different cultures, and that's all I have to say for that one. I mean, there are many cultures around the world. In this case, we're talking about the Kiyalku, the wood for that. There's also the Sikwich Alku, which makes different bows and arrows. The name will tell you. And I hope that clarifies a little bit more.
Yeah, so taking smaller parts of a culture and putting them all together lets you understand more about that culture, as a whole. And, as you were talking about, looking at the different aspects of the buds and, the buds and the branches and leaves and all that thing, they all mean something different to different cultures.
And they were talking about the buds and leaves. In this case, they are going to talk about how a bud is open. The word is telling you like the bud is closed by itself. The second one is a little bit more open, and it's very descriptive. Let's say for the clouds, that was a great introduction level. The language is extremely descriptive. If I tell you a table in English, you have to have the reference of a table. But if I tell you in the language, what a table means will be sinchiltenten, which breaks down. It is a tool that is a flat surface where you can eat. So by itself, he's describing it is a tool, that's a surface to eat. In the same way for many things. And in this case of a classroom, if I tell you a classroom, you probably have the visual image of a traditional classroom, just walls or whatever you can have the representation. But asin mematen in the language means it's a place where you can get instructions for teaching. So a place where you can get instruction teaching can be in the open. It can be anywhere. Right now here is a classroom, just in mematen. And the same way for many things that are descriptive. So when you read them, they are telling you that image. The best way I can put it, it's a very particular language, does not have nouns. That makes it hard to grasp it. But all those tools around it give you the tools of the language, give you the tools so you can describe what you're seeing, what you're feeling, and transmit. Say you're aiming for like painting. You have colors. Those colors are your prefixes, circumfixes, so on and so on. And the more extensive you have, the painting is going to be more complex. But you're aiming not to transfer just one word. You're transferring a whole image. You're painting with understanding. That's one of the main difference of these languages. When you're talking, when you're saying there's no specific word, you are constantly talking in poetry. You think about it for a second. Just you're describing all the time. In the case of the clouds, there are very specific names for the clouds, and it comes down to how do you describe it, and that's a name. And each cloud has a different property. In the same way as ice, it has a different name, and each state has a different property. So it might seem extremely extensive, but when the students start getting into that, they are discovering the one, and they're passing that image in a more wholesome way. I don't know if that clarifies a little bit more.
Yeah, that was amazing to learn that aspect of things, ones that we don't really think about every day. And it's just so awesome to hear how that's done, you know, another culture. Does anybody else have any questions for Oscar? If you do, go ahead and unmute and
Hello, Oscar. This is Valerie. I want to tell you, your program is incredible and wonderful. I'm so happy to hear about it, and I look forward to seeing the video. And I guess what we're trying to do with ISAT-2, with our satellite mission, to measure the height of the ice, but also the trees, and kind of convey multi-levels about why it's important that we study the trees. We know where they are on the earth, but we really don't know how their thickness. And one of the things that I tell children and adults is that we know that trees are incredible creatures, and they're providing a whole community of life, oxygen, everything else we know, habitat, food, medicine, and but they also are taking in our excess carbon. And so one of the things scientists will be able to do is to get a handle on like a carbon inventory of vegetation. So I want to find ways to convey the multi levels that the trees are providing to us. And I love to hear about the indigenous perspective, and would love to see how we can work together and you know, also be able to share this information with other students that may not know about the indigenous cultures, and we'll be able to get more of a connection to the trees and why they're special.
Oh, thank you very much. Absolutely. And I want to mention one aspect about the carbon sequestration. During my study, a little bit of studying at Salish Kootenai College, the tribal perspective, these reservations have this knowledge have provided a lot of research in the case of forest management and fire control fires. The way it used to be the control fire will eliminate some pests. Some might be seen as destructive, but it has a place in the culture. And actually, have shown they help with pest control, also to prevent further fires. Not only that, it start stimulating different zero stages, which help us to have more carbon sequestration. We have a healthier ecosystem by doing those, because it's a more wholesome perspective. It's been there, but it's just if you take it without going in depth on that, you might see it like out of a place. But it's different forest management, different lands, and that knowledge is important. And I believe there's a couple of research papers about that, and those places have been points of amazing research, because a lot of species, they have been migrating to those protected areas, and the ecosystems that are more healthy. And in other places, you will not find that and that can be done in a unique way. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Any other question?
Anybody else have any questions for Oscar?
I'm sorry, I have another question. Oscar, so are you going in the field and taking tree height measurements or other land measurements?
Okay.
With the builders, or is this a proposed part of your project?
Okay. This being right now we're not providing as many data right now. This being just we're ready now for the tree challenge. The same way we're building up in the language as a community members. So we're already providing tools for the school. The school ultimately will find people. But the tools are there. There's several community members involved in this project. Like I said, you were just providing tools so we can make language more accessible and that knowledge more accessible. And hopefully right now, because it's been like 2 years right now, it's great to go as a community member. Let's see if right now, I think we're ready to whoever wants to join in and start producing data, like useful data, but in a different perspective. Whoever wants to join a community members all together, it can happen. And hopefully we can deliver next month some interesting results. It happened with the cloud challenge. We were building up momentum. We were learning all together that, and it came out pretty good with the cloud observer. So hopefully you can do with that. Not only that, because when you go out there, you can also identify ornithology, like for birds and for mushrooms and other things. So it's very interesting how much you can condense when you're out there. And students don't realize it's a broadband of information, but you think you're just out there playing. So much information it can be condensed, and it doesn't feel like a class at all. Like just a broadband. You put layer over layer over layer over layer, and you give this continuously. You try to carry on. It's like somebody told me before that we have a model that, okay, you want your best seeds, your future, your youth, to deliver fruits. What do you need? That you need to provide the right soil, the right conditions, no? But it's going to be very hard if you keep on digging that, unearthing that tree, and put it in the next year, and put it to the next grade, and put it to the next one. So that tree will never be able to start being all the potential it has. So that's where we, I mean, it is not for a time. This is a life project. It's not 1 year, 2 years. This is a life project outside or inside the classroom.
Wonderful, thank you.
All right, is there anything else for Oscar? This is just amazing stuff for sure. And I did note that I will put the videos on the website once I get them from Oscar and they get uploaded, because I know a lot of people have interest in them throughout the chat for using them in their classroom and showing them to their students. So yeah, we'll get that up there as soon as possible. Anybody else have any questions? All right, so what I'm going to do now is just remind everybody, here is the next webinar for the campaign. And remember, there's none in April because we'll be focusing on the intensive observation period for land cover. But there will be one. It'll be Tuesday, May 7th at 2:30 p.m. This is because there's going to be students presenting and they get out of school at 2 o'clock. And they're able to get there by 2:30. So 2:30 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time, which is 6:30 p.m. UTC. We're going to be at the same location, and the topic for this is tree height, wetlands, and the invasive task force, live from New York. So this is going to be really cool stuff. We had one of the speakers that we had, Bob Connick, at our ENSO campaign. It was probably around in the middle of phase 3, presented on a lot of the stuff they were doing with the Genesis program at Mahopac High School. So we're going to be back at Mahopac in New York to discuss the research, their continuing research doing tree height, wetlands, and something called the invasive task force. So please tune in Tuesday, May 7th, 2:30 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time, 6:30 p.m. UTC at the same location. And you'll be getting some emails from me regarding this, and I apologize in advance that if I bombard your email inbox, but it seems like it's working so far, so there's lots of great participation. And once I get the recording back from this webinar today, I will put that up on the website, and I will send an email message out letting all of you know that it's up and ready to go. So, all right, anything else from anybody? Yes, Marcus, all good. All right, so thank you, and I'm going to stop recording right now.